It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan, with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
All right, joining us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. Watch him on YouTube. Man, this dude here, got to check him out. Pete Dougherty. See, this is a nice thing about today. I don't know if Pete likes it or not because never really asked him, but I mean, you're old school like me. Are you hip to the idea of your face always being on video now, even as a writer, joining all these people on YouTube and doing chats and all this other stuff? You like this, or do you wish it was still just being a writer and nobody ever saw your face?
No, I kind of like doing it. Now, I can't speak for whether the audience wants to look at this mug or not, but, I'm fine with it. I enjoy it. I mean, don't we all love talking sports, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's just the video aspect. Like for us, I mean, when we did this previously, we never did YouTube video streaming or nothing else. And we just started this thing in, the end of June, early July, doing YouTube streaming. So it's new for me too. I hate looking at myself. I got a big head. I'm not a fan of the video thing.
That makes two of us. But, I was uncomfortable doing it, to start with, however many years ago that was. I just, it wasn't my thing, but I've done enough now where, it's fine.
It's second nature. Right. Okay. The biggest thing for me today, and you can tell me if there's something bigger, I wanted to find out first and foremost on Devonte Wyatt and his injury status. What did Matt LaFleur have to say about that earlier?
He said week to week, which, there's
not
the data. Yeah, that's not day to day is, maybe a couple weeks. Week to week suggests, multiple weeks, 3 or 4, maybe more. They're very coy. You can't really trust injury information, at least public. When they speak publicly about injuries, you can't really trust what they say. But yeah, week to week is not, that's not great.
It's not great. Also not great is what happened after Devonte Wyatt left that football game against the Dallas Cowboys. To that point, they had no problem stopping the Cowboys' rushing attack. After that, all hell broke loose for this Packers defensive line. So what are the options? Do you just play the bigger guy in Stackhouse and deal with him figuring things out as he goes? Or do you go undersized up front and play Brooks?
Yeah, that's a tough. Both of their snaps will have to go up. And regardless of, whether Wyatt misses a week or 2 or, a month, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I am really keeping an eye on defensive linemen who could become available in the next few weeks. I don't think they need to make the trade right now because you probably pay more for it now than you would later, and they can try to get by. But I think the trade deadline is what, 5 weeks?
It's end of October, right?
Yeah, or I think if it's either the end of October, they did move it back a week. So
okay, right.
It might be the first
November.
Week. Yeah,
yep.
I think it might be the first week in November.
Yeah.
But I'm looking hard for, bringing in at least a run stopper. And if you can do better, you do it. Now, you can't give away too high a picks after the Parsons trade, but even just a big run stopper could make a big difference. I think of their pickup in 2010 with Howard Green. They got him off. They got him off waivers. Man, he made a difference that year. I don't know if they win that Super Bowl without him. He just really shored up their run defense. So just a pickup like that could make a significant difference.
That was one of the main guys in the magic carpet right here. You got 16, 17 guys on AL, and Ted's picking up scraps off the heap and seeing if anything works, and everything he touched turned to gold on that run. Talking with Pete Dougherty, Green Bay Press-Gazette. Follow him on Twitter at Pete Dougherty. Green and Gold Update brought to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy Sparky with you on the Fan. Let's also talk about this defensive line outside of them, that defensive tackle position. I said when they made that deal to bring in, that unbelievable pass rusher in Micah Parsons, that for me, the biggest amount of pressure at that moment then fell onto Rashawn Gary. Never had a double-digit sack year. You're paying him all this money. Now, in my mind, it's like, okay, now take the next step because you should have way more opportunities for one-on-one type deals. You won't be getting doubled probably nearly as much. And every time I looked up in that Dallas game, I felt like he was in a one-on-one situation trying to bull rush somebody and not getting to where he needed to get to. What was your take on Rashawn Gary?
Yeah, kind of the same. I mean, he has 4.5 sacks, so he had those in the first 3 games, and that was a really good sign. But I think if I remember right, 2 of them, he basically wasn't blocked. So, you can't. It wasn't just talent that was winning that. So that's a little bit of a red flag that he didn't get any sacks. But again, I think they missed Wyatt there too, because they missed the push in the front of the pocket. Prescott was able to slide around a little bit or step up and avoid the outside guys. So I thought in that game, they never turned loose Edgerrin Cooper. And, I think I have to assume we won't get a chance to talk to Jeff Hafley till next week because of the bye this week. But
right.
I have to assume if he could do it over again, he'd have turned him loose, Cooper loose a little bit in that second half, because they just did not get enough pressure on Prescott. And, the Cowboys had a balanced offense. Like you said, they ran the ball so well in the second half. But, you can't have the whole thing riding on whether Devonte Wyatt is healthy or not.
So Tommy Wirtz and I do the Green Bay football postgame show after games. And he brought up, and I don't disagree with him, that it feels like Quay Walker has played at a high level, maybe more consistently than Edgerrin Cooper has this year, where he's got missed tackles, being in the wrong spot, that type of stuff. And Walker has been far more consistently good through 4 weeks. Do you agree or disagree?
I guess I have to agree with that. I think he has. And Cooper he's missed a lot of tackles, way more than last year.
Yep.
I thought Cooper looked better in camp. And, part of that was in camp, they didn't know they were going to have Parsons. So they were they were moving him around. They were doing a lot of stuff with him, and they've done less with him. And I think Hafley's just going to have to incorporate him more, because Cooper, in my mind, is without a doubt the second most talented guy on that defense. And I think he has a chance to be a special player from what we saw late last season and in camp. And I still think over the course of 17 games, we'll see that. But, he's got to do it on the field.
I totally agree with you. I'd be the second most talented player. What about the cornerback position? I don't know where you go, but Carrington Valentine cannot do that again. Like, you cannot have those type of performances. Now, you could tell me maybe that it was scheme, or you could say maybe that was all on Valentine, but that was not a good look from the Packers corner this week.
Yeah, it was a rough day, and I think they're good enough. They don't have an outstanding corner. A guy that you'd move around and just put on whoever the best receiver is. They don't have anything like that, but they've got, three pretty solid corners with those three guys, with Hobbs and Nixon and Valentine. But it helps a lot. Just think of those, especially those first, well, actually all three of the first three games, they were getting so much heat, and those guys didn't have to worry about double moves because the heat was getting in there. That's what jumped out to me most in those first three games, was how fast the ball had to come out, and how fast, Goff was just doing all those short throws, and then they'd come up and tackle the guy for a 2-yard gain. They just dominated because of that. And this game was none of that at all. And again, I think it just comes down to, they've got to be ready. I think they fell into this idea that with Parsons and the 4-man rush could handle it all year. And I think they still have to be ready to send Cooper, and to a lesser degree Walker, use those guys' speed too to rush the passer, because the pass rush is still, as much as it's good to cover with 7, the pass rush is still the way to win in this league. And if you got to send 6, or you got to send 5 at least, you probably need to do it.
I felt like Jordan Morgan was under more pressure than Dak Prescott throughout that football game for sure. It also felt like maybe that Kennard and Morgan started to get better as the game got on into that second half. What was your thoughts on that offensive line play?
You mean Jordan Love was under more pressure?
Yes, than Dak Prescott was, correct.
Yeah, he definitely was. And, missing guys on the offensive line was definitely a factor. But, hey, that's life in the NFL. You're almost always going to be missing guys. Last year they were ridiculously healthy on the line. You can't count on that every year. So Prescott had a really nice – and there was a couple plays where they got pressure on Prescott, and he threw a couple darts on third downs, so – sometimes you got to tip your cap there. But he's a guy who, if you pressure him, he'll throw a couple up for grabs, and he'll make some bad decisions. Even that last throw, down that set up the final score.
The one where Keyshawn Nixon was standing in the end zone watching the receiver come back for the ball.
I realize it's one-on-one, but that's not a particularly great decision, I don't think. But it worked out. So he'll make those kind of throws. They just didn't get the pressure that you got to have to beat that team. And that's where, again, the run defense would be a concern, that the teams that can really run the ball will change the way the Packers have to play defense. And so I still think regardless of Wyatt's health and when he's back, I think they need to go get a run stopper. And I think he can do that without spending a super high pick. He can still get a guy who's a better run stopper than what you have right now.
Talking with Pete Dougherty, Green Bay Press-Gazette. Follow him on Twitter at Pete Dougherty, joining us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on the Fan. Sparky with you. I heard the press conference. We played it after the game on Sunday night. I did not hear today's press conference. We're going to play some clips from it. Charlie is cutting it up right now. But has it come up, the idea of switching out personnel on these special teams units, especially that field goal block unit? Because I feel like our guy Luke Musgrave may not be cut out to do what he's doing based on the last 2 weeks. Has that been brought up yet? Because obviously Bisaccia is under pressure from everybody in the fan base. But my angle on all this is, well, maybe we need to switch out a couple of guys and see if a couple other guys can do it better than what they have in there.
LaFleur did bring that up and said that after they switched out, that it worked. I will say, though, that play was much less Musgrave than it was Brant Banks.
Who got cut today.
Yeah, he did. Now, because if you watch the next extra point after the block where they have Brooks in instead of Musgrave and Elton Jenkins in instead of Banks, Brooks does almost exactly this. He blocks the same guy. So that's the guy, the outside guy is the guy Musgrave was supposed to block. The one thing you can criticize him for is he's got, he lunged at him, and that created a little extra space between him and Banks, where when you watch Brooks do it, he keeps his whole backside back and he just reaches with his arms. And so that closed the gap a little bit. But the big thing is Banks has to get a piece of the rusher. He's got two guys. He's got to get a piece of both of them. And when you watch the third extra point, you watch Elton Jenkins, he takes on both guys and they knock him on his backside. I mean, they just drill him, but they don't get anywhere, and they were zero threat to block the kick. Banks had to at least get his right arm out there to slow down the guy who blocked the kick, and he didn't. He only blocked the guy in front of him. So that play was much more on him than on Musgrave. But I haven't looked at their arm lengths yet. But my guess is Brooks has longer arms, so maybe he's better suited for that job because he can reach farther and still get his hands on the outside rusher while still keeping, his backside to close that gap a little bit.
So how much of that goes on Bisaccia for that being a disaster?
Yeah, I mean, it's, he's deciding who's playing. So, he deserves, the criticism for that. He's got a really good track record and a lot of respect in this league as a special teams coach, but these block kicks have been disastrous. I mean, they played a huge factor in 2 losses, and you just can't have, fairly simple things like that be what's costing you games. So the heat is very much on Rich Bisaccia. The only thing I'd say for the people who want him fired is, who's going to replace him? You replace him with somebody in staff, the scheme changes, or the scheme stays the same. And, the guy does have a lot of experience, so I'd give him the chance to fix it, but obviously the heat is really, really turned up on him right now.
He is Pete Dougherty, Green Bay Press-Gazette. Love having him on. Follow him on Twitter at Pete Dougherty. Pete, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, great talking with you, Sparky, and thanks for having me.
You betcha. Take care. There is Pete Dougherty on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all.